It's time for Branding Business, the only show that brings branding experts and corporate executives together to explore how branding your business can improve both your top-line growth and bottom-line performance. Brought to you by RiechesBaird. And now here's your host.
Welcome to Branding Business with RiechesBaird. I'm Ryan Rieches, and today's show topic is focused on a CEO's perspective on aligning a business strategy with a brand strategy. Today's guest is Brett Wood, recently named President and CEO of Toyota Material Handling North America. Brett has served in many capacities during his 22-year career with Toyota, including Vice President of Marketing, Dealer Development, Product Development, Strategic Planning, and Training Operations, all of which makes a very interesting perspective on the role branding has to play in business success. Brett, welcome to Branding Business.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Brett, initially with a background in engineering, you've had many executive positions at Toyota, including product development, strategic planning, marketing, and now, congratulations, President and CEO. Maybe you can give us an overview of how your view of brand has changed during that time.
As an engineer, I was very involved with the product and focused on product quality. Toyota's quality product is a core component of our brand. However, I've learned that our brand is much more than just that, more than just the product and the quality of our product. The face of our brand is not products alone, but the people and the services that make up the entire brand experience. For example, when a customer buys a Toyota forklift, the salesperson is in the front line, or when a mechanic or technician is performing routine maintenance on a product, then the service technician becomes the face of Toyota. So in any scenario, these interactions have to embody our brand. That's why we've invested a lot in training. For example, it's such an important focus that I've also helped develop our National Training and Customer Center in Columbus, Indiana, and in the last 6 or 7 years or so, we've trained more than 28,000 Toyota people, both at the training center and regionally. So it's a very important part of our DNA to make sure that everyone who's involved in the Toyota process understands the importance of our brand.
Well, it's clearly you do. As you pointed out, many people think branding is so associated with marketing. Of course, marketing is the group that kind of carries the brand forward in a lot of the messaging. But as you pointed out, you have many people that are involved in really the true delivery of a brand promise. And it's helpful. You think the entire organization understands it in that perception, or do you still have to do a lot of work to get people to understand how a brand is actually perceived and delivered?
No, I think everyone throughout the organization understands, especially the importance of a brand name like Toyota. There's a lot of responsibility with that. So we always emphasize that in our employee communication sessions and also in our training sessions where we're training our associates on various skills, but also our dealers too. Even the Toyota dealers represent the brand and know the importance. And if they forget it, we definitely remind them as much as we can.
Perfect. Well, Brett, you mentioned forklifts being your primary product, but maybe you can give our listeners a little bit of an overview of the type of products that are included within Toyota Material Handling North America?
Sure. TMHNA, or Toyota Material Handling North America, we manufacture and sell material handling industrial equipment. It's a B2B business. Majority of our products include forklifts of all types, with small electric-powered, where you walk behind them, or you ride on them, or including a man-up type of order pickers people may have seen in like Home Depot type of stores. And we also manufacture and sell internal combustion-powered or engine-powered forklifts of all sizes, powered by gas and LPG, diesel, CNG also. And more recently, we also sell forklifts that are powered by fuel cells. And essentially the range is from 3,000 to over 50,000 pound type of capacity. Toyota also produces tow tractors that are commonly found at airports, moving bags around at airports. Other product lines include aerial work platforms like boom lifts and scissor lifts, And more recently, one of our newest products are AGVs, or automatic guided vehicles. These are small products that are move products from point A to B without an operator. It seems to be an interesting trend in North America to get more productivity out of their work environment with this highly advanced or technical type of product that's very efficient and moving a product or parts, for example, from one point to another.
Well, Brett, Toyota is, of course, world famous for its automotive brand, and you oversee a company that was originally part of that automotive group, but now for over 10 years it's been independent, with the majority of its products made in the U.S. So is there a common philosophy from headquarters in Japan that the forklift brand should have similar attributes as the automotive brand?
Yes, absolutely. So Toyota values and philosophies run very deep in every Toyota company. That's why you'll see, for example, the Toyota production system principles, such as continuous improvement, reduction of waste, are all embraced throughout the Toyota organizations. And Toyota is well known for quality, durability, reliability, and safety. That's the DNA of Toyota, what we call our DNA. And whether it's a Toyota car or a forklift, these are same attributes apply throughout the product range. And that reputation is born from the product. Now I'm back putting my engineer hat back on for a minute. But much like the automotive side, if you look at, for example, used classified ads for used forklifts, you'll find that Toyota holds their resale value very, very well. It leads the industry as far as resale value, and so that's similar attributes that you find between Toyota automobiles and also Toyota forklifts. And it's a testament to the longevity and the DNA that I spoke about earlier. For example, we have 3 factories that build forklifts in North America. They're very similar to the automotive factories in their quality aspects and their attention to detail. And then our dealer network that provides the product and is the face of our brand sometimes also have similar attributes. There's over 250 dealers that sell the Toyota material handling products throughout North America, and they're a very important aspect of the brand of Toyota because they're truly the ones facing the customer on a day-to-day basis. And in the case of a forklift, compared to a car especially, it's very important to look at the overall cost of ownership, not just the initial cost, but the true value of the product over the life of the product. So forklifts could last more than 10 years very easily if they're maintained properly. And usually a Toyota forklift will give a customer very good value. In fact, in independent research that was done for the first time last year in 2011, Toyota forklifts were found to have the lowest cost of ownership compared to all the competitors. And Toyota forklifts and even genuine parts from Toyota consistently are number one in several surveys when it comes to overall value. And I think we find that over the years is very true also with Toyota automobiles. So there's a lot in common, even though we are separate organizations.
Well, from a brand perspective, it makes complete sense that the brand association carries down throughout the Toyota family, as you mentioned, the values and philosophies, and applies globally. And there are so many different attributes that you can actually carry forward. So how have you leveraged the positive association and awareness of the Toyota automotive brand to your benefit?
Yes, we are definitely very thankful for the brand we represent and realize its value, like I mentioned earlier, and the responsibility that comes with it. And as you stated, Toyota is world famous for the automotive brand, and our challenge has been to make Toyota world famous in the business world for our material handling brand. And I should state that Toyota has now been the number one selling forklift in North America for 10 years running. Toyota also is on track to be the number one selling forklift worldwide for a decade. So that definitely helps with our branding initiatives. And these accomplishments would not have been possible without, though, our brand equity. And early on, we did leverage the association with the automotive side. We built campaigns that stated Toyota's leadership position in both industries. For example, we had one campaign that was presenting America's number one selling car, which was the Camry, presented by America's number one selling lift truck, Toyota's lift truck. Or we would show a lift truck in an automotive setting, like a forklift driving down a windy road, giving the tagline of "You'll be tempted even to take your forklift out on a windy road. It drives so nice like a car that you'd be tempted to take it out like an automobile." So we definitely had some fun with some of the tie-ins, and that helped with our branding image early on, even when we were not number one. Your notoriety of your brand can sometimes not be positive too. With the recent issues on the Toyota automotive side, it tends to be a balancing act sometimes. For example, Toyota's automotive brand had its challenges with the claims of unintended acceleration that have since been discredited by scientific studies. But during that time, rather than leverage the brand, we had to focus on defending the brand and focusing on Toyota's exclusive and industry-leading forklift safety technology that we would bring to our customers' attention to show how safe our products were during some of those challenging times with the brand image.
You're right. You have to evaluate and look at all the different options you have available, and I think you're able to manage your way through that tough time quite well. And just to clarify, in all transparency, we have had the good fortune of working with you and helping you gain that number one position in market share, being out long-standing companies such as Hyster, Yale, and Crown. And you've been able to maintain that same America's best-selling lift truck for over 10 years now, and as you mentioned, the world's best-selling forklift as well. Yet at the same time, just like you were mentioning the challenges associated with any type of issues with the automotive side, people within your industry have commented on how gutsy it was for you to claim that number one position, considering that, who knows, someday you might lose it. Can you give us listeners a viewpoint on the thought process on making that claim?
Sure. Ryan, you're right. It was a bold move for Toyota and somewhat counterintuitive to our corporate culture. Part of Toyota's production system principles I mentioned earlier is Kaizen, or continuous improvement. And as such, we are always striving to improve and not just enjoying, perhaps, our leadership position. So it was bold, as you mentioned, to think outside the box, and thanks to your pushing and prodding us, we're pleased that we did that. Even when hitting that leadership position back in 2002, we celebrated quietly at first, but quickly turned our sights to widening the gap between us and the next competitor, rather than dwelling on that achievement. And as I mentioned, chest pounding is not our norm. So to come out with a campaign asserting our leadership position, we definitely needed a little pushing, thanks to RiechesBaird. And now, although we continue to focus on Kaizen, we are proud of our leadership position and gladly promote it and the attributes that make us number one. Of those listeners who aren't number one with their products or their services across all categories, or research could provide a good proof of leadership in some key areas. For example, we focused on continuing our brand initiatives mainly through PR and research studies. One of the research studies that we felt like Toyota would do well in was in safety. So, as an example, we worked with different independent agencies to study everybody's forklifts and determine which ones had the best safety attributes, and felt like that was a good initiative on our part. And also might be something, like I mentioned, your readers and listeners might be interested in hearing about. If they're not number one in sales, maybe there's a certain key category that might be worth investigating, and then and promote that as much as possible.
Very good point. Well, Brett, I remember having those strategic discussions around making that claim, and certainly I remember that we felt that the Toyota DNA and the process that you go through, the values, the philosophy, certainly should allow you to continue to make that same claim and carry that same leadership forward? And as well, I remember also talking about not just being a marketing campaign, but rather an opportunity to create an additional internal pride and commitment, and those same components that you mentioned earlier of making sure that everyone down into manufacturing had that same philosophy and that same vision, and were able to continue that same level of commitment to make sure that you kept that number one position and continued to deliver upon it. It's great to see that still alive today, and 10 years later.
Yeah, it's alive and well, Ryan, and so much so that if I don't want to think about if we're not number one, because every time we meet with our associates, and communication is the key, we emphasize that fact and the importance of it, and never to rest on your laurels, and to always try to improve and widen that gap between you and your competitors.
Well, Brett, I'm going to shift gears here now into another question, another kind of train of thought. And that, sure, you mentioned your dealer network and how good of a partnership you have there, and how that has been part of the success of Toyota in North America. And I would imagine there are many other listeners who have similar systems, companies who operate within their own dealer network. And what we often hear is that they as well face the challenge of clarifying the question of who is the customer. Is it the dealer or is it the end user? Now, of course, both are extremely important, and yet it's helpful to develop some sort of philosophy on how you prioritize these and maybe other audiences. How do you go about that?
It's going to be a simple answer for me, because both are our customers. We sell directly to large customers, we call them large national accounts. But at the same time, over 80% of our business is sold through our dealers, our dealer network. So in branding, we then focus on creating awareness and preference with the forklift purchaser. And that's an important aspect. We also do a lot of training with our dealers. But in the end, when we talk about our branding and our messaging, we try to look at it from the eyes of the forklift purchaser, and may be true with many of your listeners, depending on their products. But then the key is, who is the key decision maker at the customer? Is it the financial people? Is it a factory person? Is it even the operator itself who has an influence over that customer decision making process? So it's very important to really get into their mind and their eyes and make that message and that branding type of message really ring a bell with the people who are saying, I think we need to purchase a Toyota forklift this year instead of a competitor model. At the same time, we then share that messaging and all our support materials with our dealer network, and to carry those messages directly to the customers on a local level. So it's very important to tie that in from a corporate level, the messaging we might do with advertising and even in our PR efforts. But at the same time, you've got the local level with the dealers, and you want consistent messaging. So we give them a lot of tools, a lot of templates to make sure that we have that consistent message.
That's an effective system, and I think you hit on the key word there is consistency. So whether it's messaging coming out of corporate or tools that you give dealers to communicate or how the dealers deliver the service, it's all in that consistent manner. So that's just a critical component. In a related manner, our research tells us that after developing hundreds of brands, there are two things that employees typically desire in helping them fulfill their role in moving an organization forward. These two things are typically a clear understanding of the company's future direction, number one, and then secondly, regular communication from the executives. How do you go about this as CEO and President of Toyota Material Handling North America?
Ryan, I couldn't agree with you more on the top two things employees desire. They want to know about the company's future, and they want to hear communication from the leaders. So, we learned the importance of open communication, especially during the recession. I can't emphasize enough how more and more communication really got us through the challenging times, and even if it wasn't good news to share with the employees, just being able to communicate openly and honestly gained a lot of confidence throughout our company with our staff. So we are completely transparent with our profits and at times our lack of profits. We shared the pain and the reality of the situation so that associates would fully understand the need, if we had to cut costs. We hold quarterly and, when needed, additionally, all employee meetings. So at least 4 times per year, myself and some other executives are delivering important messages to our associates, giving them updates and what to expect in the future also. Frequent emails, of course, is another form of correspondence. And then back to the word we used earlier, Ryan, being consistent in our messaging. There's nothing worse than sending out a message maybe at the first quarter, and then in the third quarter you've got a different type of message. So I think it's very important to be consistent with whether they're in emails or communication sessions, keeping that message at the same, and then continuing that transparency in the good and the bad times. So we've continued that transparency about our spending and expenses and our profit picture. And the open door policy is something very important for me and at Toyota, so much so that I did start a program recently. It's called Lunch with the President, and it got the idea from my father. He was an executive at Kodak, and he was asked to start up a factory in Mexico many, many years ago. And he felt like there was some communication challenges that he was going through, so he invited the Kodak workers to share some tacos with him and just talk openly. And he said that really strengthened the communication. So I've invited our associates to have lunch with me anytime they want, and we can talk about the company future, their department, their individual role, what I see as far as the company direction. We can talk casually about friends and children and babies and soccer and football and sports, and it's been a real nice opportunity for employees to have a few minutes to not be in a formal setting or a meeting and get comfortable too about the future. And by the way, we did just complete our long-term strategic plan, and we're calling it Vision 2020. And I think it's an important element of this communication that you mentioned, because it was developed with some executive leadership, but at the same time, it included a lot of employee input, bottom up and top down, and we ended up with a Vision 2020 plan that from now on, every communication session, I'm going to share more information about the Vision 2020 and where we are with our goals and if it needs to be adjusted to reach our goals. And I think the associates will really enjoy being part of that process as we go out even 7 or 8 years from now.
Well, Brett, that's a pretty impressive overview of your commitment towards both sharing the vision as well as communicating both the long-term and short-term components of achieving that vision. And I think what we're finding is that most companies have a hard time seeing out more than just a few years. So the ability to identify a vision for 2020 is pretty impressive. And then also to utilize that vision in all of your communications, and so that people are aligned with that, and you're really developing this cultural approach towards delivering that vision is pretty darn impressive. So well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a fun process, and it's probably been about a 6-month type of process. So it's not something that you don't just come up with overnight, for sure. But it's with a lot of meetings, a lot of sessions, where there's no limits to people's thinking. Matter of fact, that's our theme for this year. We come up with a theme for every year, and our theme this year is called No Limits. And we want people to think outside the box. And where do they see the future of our our brand, of our products? How will forklifts be sold in the year 2020 compared to how they are today? And what will be the competitive landscape? Questions like that. You really get some good input when you start asking your key people those types of questions.
Well, Brett, I really appreciated your time and your insights today. I have one final question. And considering all your different roles throughout the organization, as it relates to the brand and the responsibility of the brand, who is ultimately responsible? Is it the CEO, the marketing executives, or the executive team?
Ryan, everyone represents the brand. It might sound like an easy answer, but I truly mean that. Every department, every employee, even the dealership employees, all represent the brand. Everyone, for me, is the face of Toyota. And I think a final thought too from me would be tying into that every action that you take or make is a reflection of your company and your brand. Whether you're an executive or you're out in the field, you're in sales or you're in service, you could be at a customer or at a trade show, you could be attending a conference, you could be in an elevator. Just always choose your words and actions carefully, because every aspect of those scenarios, I feel you're always representing the brand of your company. And even though someone might say it, but you're never really off the record. If you ever get that, can we go off the record for a minute? I always say yes, but I always realize that whatever we're saying is still representing the brand of our company. And like I said, it doesn't matter your role in the company. If you can keep everyone on that same image and same messaging, no matter what circumstance they're in, then I think you'll be very successful.
Brett, well said. Good counsel. Well, Brett, thank you for being a guest on Branding Business. Any final thoughts or insights to share with the listeners before we close?
No, that was it, actually. Just no matter who you are and where you are, just remember that you're representing the brand of your company, and I think that'll keep you successful for the future. And I enjoyed talking with you, Ryan, and about this topic. As you can tell, we believe it's very important, and your company does an excellent job in raising that awareness to companies about how important it is to manage your brand properly.
Appreciate that, Brett. We enjoyed the opportunity to work with you in the past, and best of luck in the future. If our listeners have any questions for you, what would be the best ways that they could reach you?
Email would be great at brett.wood@tmhna.com. That's brett.wood@tmhna.com.
Thank you so much, Brett. Well, that concludes our show for today. This is Ryan Rieches, and you've been listening to another edition of Branding Business with RiechesBaird. If you'd like to listen to past shows or read our blog series, visit brandingbusiness.com. Please share your comments so we can all benefit from the discussion and the varying viewpoints. Until our next show, stay focused.
You've been listening to Branding Business, the only show that brings branding experts and corporate executives together to explore how branding your business can improve both your top-line growth and bottom-line performance. To hear more, simply visit our website, brandingbusiness.com, or tune in next week to learn how you too can build your brand and move your business forward. Brought to you by RiechesBaird.